Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today, we're embarking on a journey that I think will fundamentally challenge how many of us perceive the Middle East.
Mhm.
For, well, far too long, this incredibly rich and foundational region has been painted with this really broad brushstroke of conflict, right?
Like,
A narrative of endless war, often rooted in what are portrayed as these ancient, inescapable divisions.
yeah, absolutely.
But what if that narrative isn't just incomplete, but fundamentally misleading?
What's truly fascinating here is how deeply ingrained these misconceptions are, within common understanding.
Yeah.
When we talk about the Middle East, particularly its past, our minds often jump straight to military history.
Mm-hmm.
And while it's true that great wars and empires rose and fell, focusing solely on conflict means missing the vast, vibrant, and often surprisingly peaceful periods of this civilization.
Right.
Our deep dive today is about moving beyond the battlefield to reveal the true heart of this region, its immense and often overlooked contributions. Science, medicine, philosophy, even the very fabric of how societies organize themselves.
Okay.
We're going to uncover some surprising facts and key insights that offer you, the listener, a real shortcut to being genuinely well-informed about a region that has profoundly shaped the world we live in.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Our mission today is to peel back those layers of popular misconception and discover that the Middle East isn't just a place of ancient conflicts, but a true crucible of innovation.
Exactly.
A beacon of knowledge that profoundly influenced global progress. We're going to explore how its periods of immense advancement and genuine tolerance have left an enduring legacy that's still felt in countless ways today.
Indeed. And stepping back to consider the broader implications, you'll soon realize just how foundational the Middle East role truly is in the story of global civilization.
Yeah.
It's not just a footnote, it's a chapter, and a very early critical one at that.
Absolutely. Consider this. If you've ever taken a Western civilization course, especially here in the United States, the very first chapters inevitably delve into ancient Egypt and Sumer.
Standard stuff.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't just an academic quirk. It's a clear acknowledgement, even within Western narratives, that the Middle East is, in many profound ways, where the foundational ideas of the West were born.
Right.
So when we later encounter the Islamic cultures of the Middle Ages, it becomes abundantly clear that their brilliance wasn't some isolated, spontaneous phenomenon.
No, not at all.
No, it was built directly upon these crucial earlier advancements from the same geographical region. It's the origin point of so much human progress, not merely a later development in some separate lineage.
You've highlighted a vital truth there. This region has a remarkable, consistent pattern of groundbreaking developments, a remarkable lineage of firsts that predates the Islamic Golden Age by millennia. Take ancient Egypt, for example, specifically prehistoric Egypt. It gave us the world's first government, the very first state, demonstrating an unprecedented level of societal organization.
Wow.
Then, when Mianos, an Upper Egyptian ruler, conquered Lower Egypt and unified the entire land, he created the world's first empire. Imagine that scale of centralized power and administration so early in human history.
Yeah, laying the groundwork.
Exactly, laying the groundwork for how states would operate for millennia.
It's genuinely mind-boggling when you pause to consider the complexity involved. And that wasn't an isolated incident, right?
Not at all. The Sumerians, dwelling in Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, they were the first to develop a comprehensive written language.
Written language.
Yeah, those approximately 5,400 years ago. And this wasn't just scratching marks on a cave wall. This was a sophisticated system, cuneiform.
Right.
It enabled systematic record-keeping, codifying laws, creating literature, the precise transmission of knowledge. It's arguably the true birth of recorded history right there.
Yeah. Transforming ephemeral oral traditions into permanent, accessible information. Amazing.
Precisely. And the innovations kept coming, building on one another. The Assyrians, for instance, nearly 2,800 years ago, invented aqueducts.
Aqueducts.
Yeah, and these weren't just basic ditches. These were sophisticated water engineering marvels, channeling water over long distances. For cities, for agriculture.
Incredible.
And if you continue to trace these original innovations, stacking them up, you uncover even more astonishing milestones, like human rights, the world's first ever Bill of Rights.
No way.
Yes. That profound concept originated with Cyrus the Great of Persia, approximately 2,570 years ago, etched onto the Cyrus cylinder. advocating for religious tolerance, abolition of slavery.
2,500 years ago.
So long before the Roman conquest, the Middle East was truly a powerhouse of incredible foundational advancements. Not just deserts and nomads,
No, clearly not. It was a hotbed of intellectual, technological, and even humanitarian progress that laid the groundwork for so much that followed globally. And speaking of intellectual powerhouses, let's turn our attention to Alexandria, Egypt, specifically its Great Library.
Ah, Alexandria.
This city was truly a beacon of knowledge, a global hub for thinkers from, well, everywhere in the known world. And here's where it gets really fascinating.
Sure.
Imagine trying to figure out the size of the Earth 2,300 years ago without any modern tech.
Right. Impossible, it seems.
Yet they did it. Eratosthenes, the chief librarian, calculated Earth's circumference with astonishing accuracy, off by only about 1%.
1%. That's just...
How do you even begin to measure something like that using just shadows and geometry? It's simply breathtaking to consider the ingenuity involved.
It genuinely is astounding. It demonstrates an incredible command of mathematics observation.
Yeah.
Just wow.
And their precision extended to even subtler celestial phenomena too, right?
Oh, yes. They also measured what's known as the Earth's precession. It's approximately 26,000-year wobble as its axis slowly shifts over time.
They measured the wobble.
They did. By taking such incredibly precise and sustained star measurements that they actually detected this subtle motion. This wasn't just casual stargazing. This was incredibly advanced astronomical calculation, long-term data collection.
Hinting at an understanding of cosmic mechanics far beyond what we typically attribute to that era.
Absolutely. Far beyond.
And it wasn't just theoretical science or abstract astronomy, was it?
No. The world's first ever steam engine was invented 2,000 years ago, right there in Alexandria, by a brilliant inventor named Hero.
A steam engine, 2,000 years ago.
Yep. We usually think Industrial Revolution, Europe, much later. But the fundamental concept, even working prototypes, were present in the Middle East way back then.
And then, of course, there's Euclid.
Ah, Euclid, the giant of geometry. His elements codified the rules of geometry that we still follow today, and he did that in Alexandria.
So this era was a period of truly incredible foundational development for humanity, setting the stage for future leaps.
It was. Which brings us to a deeply sobering point, unfortunately, and it raises a critical question. What's the long-term cost of cynical politics on human knowledge and progress? Because tragically, this first wave of incredible intellectual progress in Alexandria was deliberately destroyed.
Destroyed.
In 391 or 392 AD, the Great Library, which had flourished for about 608 years, accumulating unparalleled knowledge, was systematically burnt to the ground.
Burnt deliberately.
Consciously annihilated. This repository of human understanding works from across the globe. Just gone.
And the culprit here is not who many might expect, right? Not the typical Dark Ages narrative.
Not at all. This devastation was orchestrated under the authority of Theodosius, the Roman emperor, who had recently made Christianity the only legal religion in the Roman Empire.
Right. Constantine made it legal. Theodosius banned everything else.
Precisely. And the Archbishop of Alexandria at the time, a man named Theophilus, played a key inciting role in this tragedy.
So why? What was the motivation?
Well, Theophilus had a very practical, albeit deeply cynical, motivation. The native Egyptians had this long history of being, let's say, unruly and fearfully independent.
Okay. Like the first recorded revolution in history, right? In Old Kingdom Egypt.
Exactly. Civilians captured Memphis from the pharaoh. Plus, Egypt had been under Roman rule for over 400 years by then and had never really assimilated or wanted to be part of the empire.
So Theophilus saw an opportunity.
He did. He observed that roughly a quarter of Alexandria's population was pagan, another quarter Jewish. His calculation was basically, why not create divisions among these unruly Egyptians? If I can turn them against each other, I can control the population more easily.
Classic divide and conquer.
Dressed in religious zeal, absolutely.
So fueled by this cynical strategy, he incited a mob to enforce Theodosius's ruling that Alexandria should become Christian only.
And the mob's actions were horrific, systematic, targeted. First, they descended upon the Jewish quarter, ruthlessly killing hundreds, forcing many more to flee, murdering others who resisted. Then they systematically targeted the pagans who were mixed into the city's population, going door to door, widespread killings, forcing more to flee.
And then the library.
And then the final act of devastating barbarism, the one that echoes through history, They marched to the Great Library and burnt it to the ground.
An incited mob of Christian fanatics deliberately destroying arguably the greatest collection of human knowledge on Earth at that time.
The scale of the loss it's truly staggering. While precise records are gone, estimates for the number of scrolls and books range from 200,000 to maybe 2 million.
2 million.
Could be. Taking a conservative midpoint, say around 1 million works, it's profound when you consider that the U.S. Library of Congress in 1905 only reached 1 million books.
Wow, okay.
Think of the qualitative difference in the depth of knowledge between the ancient world's apex and 1905. Yet in sheer quantity of unique knowledge, Alexandria was unparalleled.
And the content wasn't just academic, right? You mentioned steam engines.
Right. It included designs for conceptual steam engines, even early ideas for steam-powered rockets. Imagine the trajectory of human innovation, the speed of our technological progress, if those ideas had flourished.
We might have had steam-powered flight centuries earlier, industrial revolutions.
Centuries earlier, potentially. It's impossible to know for sure, but the potential is there.
This truly brings home the catastrophic impact. The loss was so profound that it set back the reinvention of the steam engine 3 separate times.
3 times. It didn't reappear in a significant practical way until the Ottoman Empire in the 1500s, and then Europe had to reinvent it again in the 1800s.
More than a millennium of setbacks from one act of fanaticism.
And it wasn't just the steam engine. So much irreplaceable information was lost forever. Consider Aristophanes, the ancient Greek playwright.
Yeah.
We have only 5 of his estimated 25 plays. A staggering 80% of his work gone. Insights into Greek society, humor, just vanished.
And Aristotle.
We lost some of his most valuable research, including his comparative analysis of 150 Greek city-state constitutions. Imagine what a political scientist today would give for that.
Unbelievable.
It's gone. No copies left. Even the foundational writings of Thales of Miletus, often called the first philosopher.
The water's best guy.
That's him. An ethnic Phoenician writing in Greek in modern Turkey. His work, foundational to early philosophy, lost. This loss underscores that the idea of distinct, isolated Greek or Middle Eastern thought is historically inaccurate.
It was all intertwined, a melting pot.
Exactly, a vibrant intellectual melting pot. We lost an unimaginable amount of information, a foundational reset button pressed on human knowledge when that library was burnt.
But thankfully, not all was lost. Some copies of these precious works miraculously survived. And this leads us to what I see as a crucial turning point, a profound second chance for human intellectual progress. The Islamic Golden Age.
Yes, a critical moment.
These surviving copies found a new, vital home in the Persian Empire. Emperor Shepard I, reportedly quite envious of the great library's prowess, had established his own academy in Persia in the 3rd century AD, actively integrating and preserving these salvaged books.
This truly marks a pivotal moment, because when the nascent Muslim empire expanded and eventually conquered Persia, they inherited this sophisticated academy and its vast collection.
And unlike many conquerors.
Right. Unlike the Romans in Alexandria or countless others, the early Arabs made a uniquely enlightened choice. Their decision was effectively, let's leave it alone. We may not fully understand this material yet, but it's clearly valuable. We'll figure it out later.
And figure it out they most certainly did.
Oh, absolutely. Their engagement went far beyond mere preservation. By the time you reach visionary scholars like Al-Kindi, they weren't just passively holding on to knowledge, they were actively translating these invaluable Greek, Persian, Indian, Chinese works into Arabic, meticulously understanding them, critically analyzing them, and then dynamically advancing the knowledge within them.
So this Persian library, integrating wisdom from China, India, Greece, Rome, Egypt, Persia. It became like the world's internet of its time.
That's a great way to put it. A truly global repository, a vast cross-cultural database of human thought.
Wow.
Absolutely. As Al-Kindi and the subsequent generations of philosophers, scientists, mathematicians began to delve into this material, they weren't just accessing it, they were building upon it, creating entirely new disciplines and insights.
Leading to figures like Ibn Sina and Al-Haytham.
Exactly, who took philosophy and science to entirely new levels, ultimately shaping the scientific method itself.
And this brings us to a fundamental point that I think the modern world, especially Western education, has really lost track of.
What's that?
The natural, organic sequence of intellectual progress. It starts with philosophy. Then, from that philosophical framework, science emerges. And then, as science requires precise measurement and abstract reasoning, mathematics follows.
Right, the sequence.
When the Arabs first began to engage with that academy in Gundishapur, Persia, and as those books and ideas spread, eventually centralizing in Baghdad during the Abbasid period, they started precisely where they should, with philosophy.
Yes.
It was this rigorous philosophical inquiry that laid the groundwork for the astonishing scientific and mathematical breakthroughs that followed.
And if we step back to consider the broader implications, it's clear philosophy creates the fundamental framework for understanding reality. It guides our questions, shapes our methodologies.
Like Al-Haytham.
Exactly. Often considered the father of optics and the scientific method. He didn't just randomly discover that light had a finite speed, that it travels in waves, that all objects exert gravity.
Yeah.
No, these weren't isolated, accidental observations. They were born directly from a profound philosophical inquiry into the nature of reality, an attempt to understand the underlying principles governing the universe.
Their philosophy stated, philosophy is the mother of sciences.
Explicitly, it was a guiding principle in their intellectual endeavors.
That's such a stark contrast to how many view philosophy today, isn't it? Often dismissed as abstract or irrelevant.
It is. When Europe began its own philosophical renaissance centuries later, it started with figures like Machiavelli, primarily political philosophy. The great scientists like Newton and Galileo came decades later, building on those philosophical shifts.
Philosophy always comes first, setting the stage.
Always. And I think the modern world has come to incorrectly misunderstand this, often thinking, oh, we don't need philosophy. We can just focus on empirical facts and scientific data.
But that's an error.
And that, I would argue, is a critical error, a fundamental misunderstanding of how knowledge advances. Philosophy doesn't just sharpen your critical thinking. It creates the foundational conceptual framework through which you perceive and engage with the world.
Even if you don't study it directly.
Even then,
Yeah.
you're still operating within some underlying intellectual paradigm that unconsciously shapes your worldview, influences your assumptions, dictates what questions you even think to ask.
So by not engaging with it,
By not consciously engaging with philosophy, you remain unaware of the very lens through which you are viewing reality. It's a significant oversight in contemporary education, especially since we've often reduced philosophy to just, ethics.
right, a dry conversation about ethics.
Exactly. Neglecting its profound role in shaping our understanding of everything from physics to politics. We need to rediscover the deeper, more complex philosophy that truly leads to groundbreaking insights.
Okay, switching gears slightly, but still on these incredible thinkers. I love medicine. And this next point is just a monumental leap forward, a true improvement that touches every one of us.
Let's talk Ibn Sina.
Let's talk Ibn Sina, or Avicenna in the West. He truly revolutionized modern medicine. Next year, 2025, marks the 1,000th anniversary of his monumental work, The Canon of Medicine.
1,000 years. Incredible.
Before him, the prevailing medical thought, especially in Europe, was that disease was sort of singular, undifferentiated, and its manifestation depended on circumstance.
Right, like the alignment of Jupiter, or eating fish and milk together, or a black cat.
Yeah, largely mystical, superstitious stuff.
Ibn Sina, with his rigorously inquisitive and scientific mind, essentially asked the revolutionary question, why?
Just why?
Yeah. He posited a radically new concept. No, there are distinct diseases. They are individual entities, each with different causes and distinct transmission factors.
That's a huge conceptual shift.
Groundbreaking. He then provided hundreds of specific cures in his encyclopedic work. But even more significantly, he championed the concept of prevention.
Prevention over cure.
Exactly. He argued, it's better than all these cures, some of which may not even work. Prevention. If you can understand and interrupt the transmission vectors, the ways diseases spread, you can prevent illness from occurring in the first place. You won't need the cure.
That's the foundation of epidemiology, modern hygiene.
Precisely. This profound shift from treating symptoms to understanding root causes and emphasizing public health transformed medicine, reshaped the world's approach to health, and contributed directly to the better life expectancies we enjoy today.
It's incredible to think about the practical, everyday impact. And this kind of transformative thinking wasn't confined to medicine, was it?
Not at all. Around 750 to 800 AD, after the Abbasid Revolution, the new empire conducted an audacious social and economic experiment.
Okay.
They had inherited the traditional land systems of the Roman and Persian empires, largely peasant-based feudal systems. Lords owned the land, peasants were tied to it, served the lord, little personal incentive to innovate.
Standard feudalism.
Right. Initially, the Arabs just left this system in place, but the Abbasids had a truly revolutionary thought. one that challenged deeply entrenched power structures. What if we just break this traditional system?
Radical.
Extremely. So they took a radical, unprecedented step. They identified a lord, and instead of having the state or the lord own the land, they simply deeded it directly to the peasants who worked it.
Wow, just gave them the land.
Just gave them the land. This act created the world's first ever large-scale private property system. While some limited forms existed before, never on this vast systemic scale, making land ownership accessible to the common farmer.
So suddenly, a huge number of ordinary peasants owned their own land. What happened?
Well, inevitably, some made poor choices, went bankrupt. But many more, now directly benefiting from their labor and ingenuity, began conducting experiments on their own plots.
They had a direct incentive.
Exactly. A direct incentive to maximize yield, improve their land, because the fruits of that labor were now solely theirs.
And those countless individual experiments.
Over time, they coalesced into what we now recognize as modern agriculture. Things like sophisticated crop rotation, diversifying crops, systematic plant hybridization, modifying where plants could grow through new irrigation, building complex dams.
All of that came from this single experiment in property rights.
Directly. Fundamentally creating the foundation of modern agricultural practices that feed us today.
That's amazing.
And what's truly fascinating here is how much this society, particularly its urban centers, resembled a modern one in so many other ways.
Like how?
Imagine their cities, bustling at night, illuminated by streetlights.
Streetlights. Really?
Yes, not just simple torches. They used oil or petroleum, pumped through sophisticated pipe systems. They even had attendants whose job was to light and maintain these lamps.
So if you look down from space?
Exactly. Go back 1,000 years of the satellite, look down at night, the entire planet would be dark, except for the twinkling, vibrant lights of the major Arab cities.
Incredible. What else?
Daily conveniences. They had a burgeoning fast food industry.
Fast food? No way.
Yes. Pre-prepared meals available quickly. They also developed a convenience industry, things we'd recognize as laundromats. Drop off your clothes, get them professionally washed.
Like a dry cleaner?
Sort of, yeah. And you could even give a messenger a note with your grocery list. You'd go to the market, buy your groceries, and deliver them to your house.
Early grocery delivery.
A remarkably early form of it. They built a civilization that, by most contemporary standards, looks incredibly sophisticated and modern.
Even without electricity.
Right, no electricity, of course, but advanced plumbing systems, water pumped into homes, efficient sewage pumped out. During the golden age of Islam, this was a fully modern, functional civilization.
And its advancements directly inspired Europe for centuries.
Profoundly so. That influence wasn't just academic or military. It impacted global trade, even inspired, for example, the Vikings.
The Vikings? How?
They explicitly sought trade with the Middle East because they knew it possessed technologies, goods, intellectual advancements light years ahead of what was available in Europe.
So they wanted in on the action.
Exactly. They began to establish extensive, often dangerous routes to get there.
And what's the profound takeaway here? It means a truly globalized world existed 1,000 years ago.
That's it. 1,000 years ago. My own Swedish ancestors, for instance, would embark on incredibly arduous journeys. They'd navigate their longships to what is today Latvia, go up the Dvina River, then undertake a difficult portage, carrying their ships overland, sometimes for miles to the Volga River.
Carrying their ships.
Put them back in, sail down the Volga to the Caspian Sea, and from there, trade with the north coast of Persia, before making the long journey back.
The effort involved was just, wow.
Astonishing how far and how much effort they would expend for this lucrative trade.
And the reach of this trade network.
The Muslim world's reputation was so widespread that we've discovered Muslim coins, specifically dirhams, as far away as Iceland.
Iceland.
Yeah. The Vikings were clearly integrated into a vast, interconnected global trading network stretching from the Arctic to China. They even figured out how to trade fresh food with China.
Fresh food? How?
By packing their ships with ice harvested from mountains, preserving perishable goods over long voyages.
Ingenious.
This was an incredible civilization that not only fundamentally changed how its own people lived, but profoundly connected and reshaped the entire known world.
Speaking of changing the way we see the world, let's circle back to Ibn Sina. Because his insights went way beyond medicine, didn't they? Right into the nature of reality itself.
Oh, absolutely. A truly fascinating and profoundly influential character. He famously admitted that he read Aristotle's Metaphysics 40 times.
40 times.
Meaning he memorized the entire text word for word and still couldn't fully grasp its meaning.
Why not?
The problem was Aristotle wrote in subtle idioms, layers of philosophical shorthand, and their precise meaning had been largely lost, even to Greek speakers of Ibn Sina's time.
So the code was lost.
Essentially, this is where the brilliant Al-Farabi made a breakthrough, often called the second teacher after Aristotle.
Right.
Al-Farabi treated these idioms like a secret code that needed to be deciphered. He dedicated himself to breaking that code, finally unlocking Aristotle's true meaning.
How did he verify it?
Well, once he felt he'd deciphered it, he found Aristotle's books in the marketplace, read them, and suddenly understood them because he'd already memorized the original text through sheer discipline.
Wow. That's dedication.
This act of profound intellectual archaeology was vital, not just for Al-Farabi, but for passing on this foundational understanding to Ibn Sina.
And from that hard-won understanding of Aristotle, Ibn Sina began to contemplate a fundamental question. What does it mean for a thing to be real? How do we comprehend reality? Aristotle talked about essence, right? A thing's fundamental nature.
Yes. And Ibn Sina pushed this further, asking, what is this essence? His answer was profoundly modern.
Which was?
He concluded that a thing's essence is fundamentally a description that you can capture and articulate through information.
Information.
Yes, he conceived of a thing's essence as a composition of information. Think about describing a suit. Its color, texture, material, cut. That's information.
Or a person. Height, eye color, features.
Exactly. Each attribute is a piece of information making up the complete description. It's strikingly similar to how we think of reality today in the digital age, as bits of information.
So he was thinking like a computer scientist almost.
In a profound way, yes. Abstracting reality down to its informational components.
And then from this foundational insight, he made an even more astonishing observation.
A truly mind-bending extrapolation. That with time, information has this unique and inescapable relationship as you go forward in time. The amount of information needed to describe something inevitably increases.
Increases. How so?
Well, think about yourself. Describing you now is more complex than describing you as a child. More memories, experiences, scars, gray hairs.
Okay, I see that.
Even this cable we're sitting at. When it was new, simple description. Now, it has this bump here, that scratch there. Describing it as it ages, accumulates history, requires more information.
This concept that information increases or gets more complex over time.
It's a fundamental principle of the universe. And this brilliant thinker then took this simple, observable principle and applied it to the grandest scale imaginable.
The entire universe.
The entire universe. What if I run the clock backwards? Not just for this table or for me, but for all of existence. Through this monumental thought experiment, applying this principle of information, he discovered what he called the necessary being, or the wajib al-wujud.
The necessary being. What's that?
What's truly astonishing here is the sheer prescience. This necessary being, for Ibn Sina, was the ultimate information packet, a singular, fundamental point with just enough inherent information within it that the entire universe, with all its complexity and accumulated information, could spontaneously unravel or expand from it.
Wait, that sounds like.
That, for all intents and purposes, is the conceptual precursor to singularity. That's a philosophical articulation of the Big Bang.
And the idea that information increases with time. Complexity.
That, in essence, is the concept of entropy, the fundamental tendency towards increasing disorder or disorganization.
He figured this out 1,000 years ago.
1,000 years ago. Long before the scientific instruments or mathematical frameworks existed in the West to even conceive of such ideas, Ibn Sina was articulating concepts, singularity, Big Bang, entropy that Western science only formally figured out and described in the 1970s.
That's absolutely incredible, but also...
It is incredible, but it also prompts a profound sense of lament, doesn't it? Makes you wonder about the lost centuries, how much further ahead humanity might be if this knowledge had been continuously built upon.
Or maybe. Maybe it's good we went slow.
Or perhaps, as a counterthought, maybe it's for the best we're going slow. Maybe we're too fundamentally unprepared to handle all this technology and knowledge if it came too quickly.
A truly provocative thought. Before we dive into re-examining conflict in the Middle East, maybe touch briefly on something else practical that enabled all this. Coinage.
Ah, yes, money.
Eh?
Crucial invention. The first standardized coins were minted about 2,650 years ago in what is today Western Turkey. Lydia, part of Ionia, where Thales was from.
What were they made of?
Electrum, a natural gold and silver alloy. They were tiny, but revolutionary.
How so? Revolutionary.
Well, think about economics before coins.
Yeah.
Direct barter. You have grain, you want silk. But the silk merchant only wants eggs. You're stuck.
Right. The double coincidence of wants.
Exactly. Money completely removed those inefficiencies. It created a universal medium of exchange, vastly increasing the fluidity, scale, speed of economic transactions, enabling complex markets, global trade.
And this ties into tolerance in the early Islamic Empire.
It does, fascinatingly. When the Arab Empire was first established, they didn't immediately create their own mints. They used the captured Roman and Persian ones.
Just use the old coin.
Effectively, yes, inherited the existing currency systems. So if you examine early Islamic coins, especially from the Umayyad period, you often find Roman coins maybe still with an emperor's image, Christian crosses, Latin letters.
But with Arabic added?
Right, overstruck or engraved with Arabic script, maybe identifying the mint city, like Homs or a local governor's name.
What does that tell us?
What's truly illuminating here is that they clearly didn't perceive a fundamental separation or conflict. It wasn't considered strange or blasphemous that they, as Muslims, were using Roman coins with Christian crosses.
No sense of, I can't use this because it's Roman or Christian.
None at all. It highlights a profound underlying historical tolerance, a pragmatism that transcended religious iconography. Even the Arabic word fils for money, still used today, comes directly from the Roman coin fallis.
A direct, unburdened adoption. Okay. This deep historical context of tolerance is absolutely crucial then, because one of the most persistent, damaging misconceptions I hear about the Middle East is that it's always been inherently violent, perpetually troubled, with current conflicts having ancient, intractable roots. But you're saying?
There is nothing accurate about those statements at all. Zooming out, you'll find there are simply no ancient roots to the conflicts we're witnessing today, particularly the notion of a struggle between a Muslim-majority world and a Jewish population.
That idea is just wrong.
It's a complete historical anachronism, a projection of modern geopolitics onto a distant past that simply doesn't support it. Early Muslim conquests, for instance, were fundamentally for imperial expansion and strategic control, not forced religious conversion.
And compared to Europe.
And to make the popular narrative even more flawed, if you were to quantify the sheer number and scale of wars over centuries, the Middle East actually looks relatively calm compared to Europe during the same period.
Europe was the bloodbath.
Europe was, to put it mildly, a landscape marked by ceaseless, brutal warfare. A continuous period of intense, widespread conflict.
So where did Middle East conflict come from?
That's a critical point. Looking at the broader tapestry, so much of the significant conflict in the Middle East was external in origin.
Outsiders.
It becomes obvious really quickly. A frequent cause of large-scale upheaval was outside invasion. The Persians invaded, Alexander the Great invaded, the Romans came, the Crusaders arrived, later the Mongols, the Ottomans.
So not internal religious strife.
Well, not to say there wasn't any internal conflict. As the vast Arab Empire fragmented, various Turkish states emerged and warred with each other. And with Arabs, Persians tried to reestablish empires. There was internal power struggle, like in any vast empire.
But distinct from religiously motivated modern conflict.
Absolutely distinct from the kind of religiously motivated existential struggle we often inaccurately imagine today.
In fact, for religious purposes, the Muslim empire, especially early on, was remarkably tolerant.
It was. It made it explicitly clear that conversion to Islam was not mandatory. And ironically, the state sometimes faced an unusual problem. People converting too quickly.
Too quickly? Why was that a problem?
Because taxes from Muslims went to the poor within the Muslim community. The state funded itself primarily from a different tax, the jizya collected from non-Muslims living under its protection.
So if everyone converted...
From a purely fiscal perspective, they didn't necessarily want mass conversion, as it would directly reduce state revenue.
So that economic disincentive slowed conversion?
Precisely. It's why it took a very long time for Islam to become dominant in many areas. For example, large-scale conversion in Egypt didn't really accelerate until around 900 AD. Egypt only became majority Muslim around 1300 AD.
600 years after the conquest.
600 years. It reflects that built-in pragmatic tolerance and the absence of forced conversion.
And this tolerance wasn't just for Christians.
Far beyond. When the Muslims established their empire, the vast majority of the world's Christians ended up living within it. But there were also large Zoroastrian populations, significant Buddhist communities in the East, and crucially vibrant and numerous Jewish populations.
And they were all protected.
This remarkable level of tolerance and protection was extended to everyone, often enshrined in law.
The result being?
The profound result was an almost complete absence of the kind of religiously driven conflict we inaccurately project onto the past today. Even when there were internal conflicts, like Fatimid Shia versus Seljuk Sunnis, motivations were primarily political, economic, territorial.
Not religious in the modern sense.
Not religious in the modern ideological sense. It was only later, with outside forces like the Crusaders in the 11th century, that aggressive divisions based on religious identity were explicitly promoted and violently fostered.
And then later, European colonialism.
And then much later, during the European colonial period, these divisions were systematically exacerbated and deliberately pushed onto local populations as a means of control.
This historical record raises that question again. Why do we so often misattribute historical cruelty and ignore tolerance? Let's take the treatment of Jewish populations as a stark example.
Okay. The Romans, for instance, consistently persecuted and killed Jewish populations in Palestine, brutally putting down rebellion after rebellion.
Right.
When the Persians showed up in Jerusalem in 614 AD during their long war with the Romans, the local Jewish population immediately sided with the Persians against their oppressors.
Makes sense.
It led to a temporary Jewish state under Persian rule. However, this newly empowered Jewish state began to enact harsh vengeance on the Christian population, burning churches, killing Christians.
Oh.
The Persians, known for their policy of tolerance, were not pleased. They eventually intervened, reduced the Jewish state's autonomy, felt they were being excessively harsh.
And then the war ended.
Crucially, when the Persians finally surrendered to the Romans in 628, after this devastating war, they insisted on humane treatment for the Jews as an explicit condition of the peace treaty. Persia disliked Roman intolerance.
But the Romans.
But the Roman Emperor Heraclius, upon triumphantly retrieving relics in Jerusalem in 628, immediately and brutally disregarded that treaty. He decided to murder the Jews in Jerusalem anyway.
Just ignore the treaty.
Completely. An act of horrific cruelty and profound anti-Jewish hatred. Estimates suggest he massacred around 20,000 Jews in Jerusalem alone.
20,000.
To this very day, the Coptic Church in Egypt observes a special pre-Lent fast, sometimes called the Heraclius fast, precisely to lament his sin of breaking that treaty and murdering the Jews.
Wow. That memory is preserved.
Deeply rooted. And it stands in stark contrast to the arrival of the second caliph, Umar, in Jerusalem shortly thereafter.
What did Umar do?
Finding no Jews in Jerusalem due to the massacres, Umar immediately asked his companions to bring 80 Jewish families to repopulate the city, invited them back to a place they'd been ethnically cleansed from.
A profoundly different approach.
Profoundly different. One deeply ingrained in the historical Middle Eastern tradition. Recognizing diverse communities need to live together.
And this memory of coexistence isn't just historical fact. It's embedded in the culture, despite external pressures.
Absolutely. Deeply embedded. I experienced this myself firsthand. In 2010, right before the Arab Spring, there was that terrible terrorist attack in Alexandria targeting Christians.
I remember that.
I was having dinner with a Coptic family there, and I asked the host, a deeply thoughtful woman, if she believed this terrorism would ever truly stop. Her response was simple, profound, powerful.
What did she say?
She said, most Egyptians understand how Egypt works, but a few don't. They're foolish. Us Christians, we need Muslims. Muslims need us. We are one country, one people. It's just some of us are Christians, some of us are Muslim. 90% of Egyptians understand that. We'll get through this. It's okay.
Wow. We need each other.
It's an anecdote that beautifully illustrates that the historical understanding of a tolerant Middle East, a tolerant Arab world, isn't just academic theory. It's ingrained in cultural memory, lived experience. The idea of these religiously driven divisions, like the Jewish question being an inherent Arab issue, is deeply alien to the historical Middle East.
A foreign imposition.
Exactly. Consider Zengi, a Muslim ruler who recaptured Edessa from the Crusaders. When the city rebelled again, he asked himself, who can I trust to settle here to ensure loyalty?
Who did he choose?
He chose Jewish families, not Muslims like himself, brought them to Edessa because he trusted them implicitly to be loyal and help secure the city.
Trusting Jews over Muslims for loyalty.
It highlights that the idea of religious divisions fundamentally separating people and dictating loyalty is truly alien to the historical Middle East. The great Persian and Arab empires simply never operated on that principle.
Whereas the cruelty, the massacres.
The systemic cruelty towards Jewish populations, especially massacres, was very much a European phenomenon, demonstrated by the Romans, later the Crusaders, who, starting in 1096, attacked Jewish communities along the Rhine, killing thousands, before continuing their brutal persecution in the Holy Land.
And the illogicality of it. Claiming Christian justification for hating Jews when Jesus himself was Jewish.
It's a profound illogicality if you spend even a moment truly thinking about the historical and theological context. It underscores how deeply ingrained prejudice can become, distorting even fundamental tenets of faith.
Okay, so this brings us to a crucial contemporary point about the path forward. If history truly indicates that resistance, endurance, a return to inherent cultural values prevails in the end,
Right.
and the current state of entrenched conflict is both fundamentally unhistorical and economically nonsensical,
Absolutely.
what then is the truly inevitable, tolerant future that awaits the Middle East?
It's the key question, isn't it?
Indeed. Because the current economic and political instability plaguing the Arab world, about a third of its states in ruins, another third dangerously unstable, it's just not a formula for long-term success, not even for the stable states.
No, it's unsustainable.
What would happen, for instance, if Egypt, 115 million people, were to collapse economically or socially? Where would 115 million displaced Egyptians go?
It's unthinkable, the global impact.
It destabilizes the entire global economic and political system immediately. Consider the cost. Conservative estimates suggest the U.S. intervention in Iraq alone removed a staggering $10 trillion from the global economy.
$10 trillion.
$10 trillion. There is simply no beneficial global endgame, no positive outcome for anyone from these ongoing manufactured conflicts.
So stepping back to consider the broader implications, the only logical and historically informed solution is one that fully embraces and leverages the region's inherent historical diversity and culture of coexistence.
Like Gaddafi's suggestion.
Think of Gaddafi's provocative but historically resonant suggestion of Isra'tine, a single, secular, multi-ethnic, multi-religious state encompassing Palestine and Israel.
Not erasing identities, but creating a framework.
Exactly. A framework ensuring protection and equal rights for all Christians, Muslims, Jews, Druze, whoever else chooses to live there.
How would you prevent domination?
Such a framework would ideally include a truly multi-religious Supreme Court or constitutional body designed specifically to prevent domination or oppression by any single religious or ethnic group.
Based on history, tolerance, cultural memory.
This is what a deep understanding of the region's history, its periods of flourishing tolerance, and its core cultural memory suggests is the only true and sustainable path forward.
So what does this all mean for you, the informed listener? It means the story of the Middle East is far more complex, far richer, and, well, far more hopeful than you might have imagined from mainstream narratives. It means challenging those simplistic notions of ancient, intractable conflict and recognizing the profound, enduring legacy of civilization and coexistence.
It's a profound question, really. One that challenges us to look beyond the immediate headlines and appreciate the deep, multifaceted, and ultimately resilient legacy of civilization that resides in this remarkable part of the world.
Yeah.
And if history truly indicates that deep-rooted cultural resistance and the natural inclination towards coexistence ultimately prevail, and if the current state of conflict is both unhistorical and economically nonsensical, what then is the truly inevitable, tolerant future that awaits the Middle East? And how might we, as informed global citizens, contribute to its reemergence?
We hope this deep dive has given you a fresh perspective, deepened your understanding, and provided much to consider. Thank you for joining us on the deep dive.